Hello, my name is Cal Watson. I'm a longtime IADC member. I practice with Robinson Gray in Columbia, South Carolina.
Hi there, I'm Larry Smith. I'm off counsel of Rumberger Kirk in Orlando, Florida, and a member of the IADC. And I'm also the founder of Variosity Institute for Inclusive Excellence, which deals with diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Today's video is about diversity consultants. When should a firm hire one? What does a diversity consultant do? And what can a diversity consultant do for a law firm? And with that in mind, Larry is an example of a diversity consultant who has written and worked with a lot of firms over the course of time. So Larry, will you share your story with us?
Sure. I can tell you that I didn't start out to be a consultant about anything. I was a hardworking lawyer, like most of our listeners. I was a managing partner of a small to mid-sized law firm. And about 20 years ago, I began to become more involved in diversity and inclusion at the state bar, the Florida State Bar, and also on a national level, including diversity committees like the IADC and other fine organizations. And over 20 years, I sort of, in addition to practicing law, I sort of whittled down what was really, really important to me as I got older and what I wanted to accomplish. And diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the sense of belonging for everybody always was at the top of my list. So I've carved out time to hopefully make some difference and help people with that based on my experience.
Tell us this, Larry, when should a firm hire a diversity consultant? At what point does that occur, or a corporate legal department?
You know, I don't know that there's a single answer for every situation. I would say in general, any organization, whether it's a law firm or a legal department, or for that matter, a non-legal entity, should do self-evaluation to identify where they are in their journey. And then where do they want to be, and establish a timetable and a plan for how can we get to where we want to be and how do we get there. And when that happens, I think more often than not, people are going to realize that they could use some coaching to help them if they want to move that to be better, to move that needle. They're going to need somebody to help them, just like we need coaches in so many things, whether we want to play tennis better or do speech better, or whatever it is in life that we want to accomplish and be better at, we may need a coach to help us get there.
That's a good point. And I'm the managing partner of this firm, and we did hire a diversity consultant. And I think the reason we hired one is because we quickly realized that we didn't know what we didn't know. We needed help defining the issues, helping us understand the direction and the needs and the path forward. And it was really one of the first things we did after we identified diversity as a priority and made it a priority in our strategic plan. Larry, what are some of the things that a diversity consultant can do for a firm once he or she is retained?
Well, again, I think it's an individual kind of question because a one size doesn't fit all, whether it's the size of the organization, the place where they find themselves in the journey. What I think they can do is help the leadership of the firm sit down and identify priorities, because if you don't have buy-in from the top, it's not going to work in the middle, and it's going to lead to a very frustrating experience and wasted money. So helping people identify what realistic goals they have and that they want to impart throughout as core values and accomplish within their organization. I think then things you can do is you can have small meetings, you can have groups, you can have large keynote addresses where you bring people together, especially at things like law firms that love to have, retreats and make diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging something that is visibly important to the organization. And getting all those people in one place is also kind of cost effective if you're going to have them there anyway to talk about billing and client development and marketing. Well, diversity and inclusion is a really important thing for your future as well. So it runs the gamut from one-on-one with the CEO of the organization to a diversity committee to give them ideas, to see where they are. And some of this, I think, is just bouncing ideas off. You said, Cal, that one of the things that we have to recognize is we don't know what we don't know. And that reminds me of a famous quote from Thomas Paine, one of our founders, that said, you know, a long habit of thinking, not thinking something wrong gives it the superficial appearance of being right. In other words, we get so used to what we do that we don't recognize that we're doing something wrong, or that we're behind, or that we may need to change. So I think a consultant can come in with an outside perspective and take a look at things, just like you have an accountant come in and look at your book, not because you believe your accounting staff is bad or don't know what they're doing, but you want a fresh set of eyes to come in and look at the problem, look at the challenge, and make sure that you're doing it in a better way than maybe you would figure it out doing it on your own. That's what I think.
Yeah, and we had a similar experience with our consultant. She came in and did an assessment, met with different groups in the firm to try to understand where we were and in the process. We did training. She did a wonderful diversity training for the lawyers and the staff. And she also did, as you mentioned a moment ago, a town hall with all the attorneys. This was during COVID, so it was virtual. And it was a really neat experience because of the communication about diversity. And it was probably the first time we, as a firm, had that frank of a conversation. And it was really very helpful. And she facilitated that. And it was nice to be able to communicate about issues that maybe we hadn't talked about with each other. So that was very helpful. And she also has looked and continues to look at our policies to make sure that our policies are the type that promote and encourage diversity. Larry, one other question I think we'd like to talk about, and that is, how does one find a consultant and go about hiring a consultant? How does a firm do that?
Well, I think there's probably a lot of ways to do it. If you just Google, you'll find diversity consultants. LinkedIn is a great source. I do think sometimes that you know, there's so many people involved that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and so communication is good. Word of mouth. If you had a good experience with your diversity consultant and a colleague of yours is looking for something similar, I think word of mouth is good. Here in the IADC, we say think IADC first. And so we turn to our colleagues who are similarly committed, and we ask how they got to where they are and what their experience has been. As defense lawyers, like the IADC members, we're not, you know, we don't hawk our wares. We're not good about marketing ourselves and putting ourselves out front. But I really believe that diversity, equity, inclusion is something we just have to be. It's just so important. If you can make a difference, you have to try to make that difference. And that's true whether you're me as a speaker or consultant, or it's you as a managing partner, managing people with different backgrounds and perspectives. One of the things that struck me when you were telling your story about having the Zoom conference and the training was how important that step is, to be able to feel comfortable enough to ask the hard questions so that you can get at the right answer. If you're just going to be polite and nice and nobody's going to talk about the elephant in the room, no progress is going to be made. So providing that kind of safe environment whether so that a consultant or a manager or a diversity committee chair can have honest dialogue with people and understand what they're thinking and feeling, and help address the challenges of keeping those people happy and satisfied and productive, I think is really important. So I certainly laud your law firm's effort at trying to move that forward, and I think it will pay off for you.
Well, thank you, Larry. That's great advice. And can you let us know your telephone number or email in case people have further questions about this topic?
Absolutely. You can reach me on my telephone number is 407-630-8428. You can reach me by email either at my organization, which is Larry@Variosity, www.variosity.org. That's VARIOSITY.org. Or you can reach me at my law firm, lsmith@brumberger.com.
Or at any IADC meeting, right?
Or at the upcoming and at any IADC meeting I can get to. We're all wanting to get to a meeting now.
Well, thank you, Larry. We appreciate it. And that's the conclusion of this video about diversity consultants.
Thanks so much for the opportunity. I enjoyed the conversation.